maybe throughout time, throughout history, have made art important to people, and that should be what's looked at. Concepts of beauty and some of these things are important and do have a meaning to us today. Those things are sort of lost when the argument is just, is it art or not? But if you're arguing about what's good art, then some of those things start to come back in, and I think that makes a much more interesting discussion.
And which of your paintings is your favorite, and why?
I can't say I have a favorite. There would be, I could list 10 maybe that I think are important, that are good. In the 24 Hours series that I did, the On the Roof painting is one that I stripped away more. It's got this big empty sky, a little bit of stuff going on at the bottom. The roof of the house is pretty empty, and then there's a little strip of the skyline of Los Angeles at night, two-figured. And I like it because I stripped it down. I like it because I did something different than is normal for me. And that stripped down quality was something that I appreciate in that. I like the piece called Riverbed, which has a woman in a tree. It was very simple. I painted it in a month, and just knocked it out. A lot of these big paintings will take me 2 or 3 months, so it just flowed out of the brush. It's not as clear to me what it's about, but because of that, I like the sort of openness of it in my own head. Some of these paintings I know what they're about, and it sort of kills it. With that one, it's just a little more open. It's a little more mysterious. It's just sort of an iconic image rather than an image about things, and I like that about it. When you're at an art opening, everybody, and it's your show, it's pretty rare you hear negative things. Everybody, to any artist, it doesn't matter how bad the work is. They'll be, oh, that's fantastic, what a great show, and it can be the worst stuff you've ever seen, but the artist gets the same, sort of good compliments and things that anybody gets. It doesn't, those things tend to make little difference. Criticism, on the other hand, I remember a lot of criticism, much more so than I remember those compliments. But in terms of one of the nicest things that I felt, I don't even know who the person was. It was a stranger who reviewed my 24 hours a day catalog on Amazon. I'd never met this person. And it was a long review, and it made me cry. It was sort of, God, this stuff does actually connect with people sometimes, and that was sort of important to me. And that there've been a few of those sort of things, but that it was a complete stranger was part of it. Somebody that wasn't trying to, tell me great work, wonderful, at an art opening or something like that, which is always nice. I'm not saying, that it's not nice when people don't say that, but this just meant more because I didn't know the person, and it was articulately expressed and sort of made me realize that I'm actually hitting some things that nail right on the head sometimes.
And next question is, did you have unsupportive art professors growing up, and how do you deal with these situations?
It was a mix. Obviously I had some that were supportive. I also had some that were horrible. And when I remember when I was at Lawrence University, this painter of abstract, the painter who taught abstract painting, hated me, hated my work, hated that I sat in there and drew so conservatively in his estimation, and I'm in there drawing a cast of a head that showed all the muscles. He comes in drunk, as he often was, and he wanders. So I'm alone. It's nighttime in the studio. I'm the only student in there working, and he looks at that cast and looks at what I'm doing. He says, "This is not art," and he picks the cast up and smashes it on the ground and walks out. And I sort of, wow, So, he was not supportive, but at the same time, there was a teacher there, David Trufant, who taught printmaking, who was extremely supportive. He got let off, he was there temporary. He was like a 2-year assignment, and so when he left, I basically left too. That's when I transferred to Madison. At Vienna, it was the same sort of deal. Professor Hauser and his assistant professors were great. Very supportive, obviously. He's a realist figurative painter. But the life drawing teacher who had control of all the life drawing in the academy, basically, or the important thing that you had to get your book signed for. A guy by the name of Professor Mickle was an abstract painter, but he was in charge of life drawing, and it was the grand room where Sheila had drawn. I mean, it was set up like an amphitheater and had this space down below and could seat 200 students probably. It was fantastic. I was determined to learn to draw the figure, and so I would be there every day. I was probably the student that was there the most regularly, and I kept that up for a couple of years. But he hated me. Another one, he would come out and he'd make fun of me in German, make jokes, and he'd have everybody laughing, looking down at what I was drawing, because I was trying to draw the muscles and trying to draw like Michelangelo or something, and he wanted everybody to draw the gesture. He had certain sayings, and you got to draw. Drawing is like driving. You got to react fast or you're dead. Stuff like this. He had these little sayings and things, and it was really tough. But the more he would bug me, the more I would buckle down until I could draw really fast. I could get all the muscles in place and draw my little academic drawing much quicker than they could make their their quick gestural carrots or whatever they're drawing.
And where do you see realistic figurative painting heading in the context of art history?
I think it'll always interest people, and it will be there in the context of art history. Art history is made up, so if people at some point in the future decide, this is more, this was important, then it'll be part of the history books. If they decide it wasn't, then it won't be. It's sort of the people in the future decide what their history is, and that's what happened with the whole train of modernism and all, some of this stuff. Certain artists, in retrospect, were made more important because they sort of fed that path to modernism, and in 20th century art books, those are the ones that were chosen by art historians, basically, to put that history together. When I was teaching at Art Center, I'd show slides of people I liked. I said, this is my art history, and I encourage my students to invent their own art histories, not to listen so much to what's delivered in books or delivered by so-called experts.
And so how important is art school for youthful artists going to college? And how important is gaining a master's in art for the development of an artist?
I don't have a master's.
That's very telling.
I have a career instead. I don't know why I didn't get that master's. I had the one degree, and obviously I learned quite a bit in going to school. I have 9.5 years of college level art education. It's enough to be a doctor, I stayed enrolled at the Vienna Academy of Fine Art for 5.5 years. Before that, I already had a degree in art for 4 years. So, that's a lot of time spent learning. So obviously, it's important. I learned important things. Had good teachers. So that was all good. The reason I didn't go for the MFA or a degree in Vienna, I ignored certain things that were needed for that degree on purpose, was because the MFA students I saw at the University of Wisconsin, who I was with very much of the time, especially in the printmaking department, everybody around me were people in the MFA department. I sort of jumped through all the beginning classes and just was in there with them doing this stuff, and Colescott allowed that. So they're in there. They're coming to the end of their MFA thing, and they're all busy looking for jobs, and I said, I don't want a job. I want to be an artist. And